Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Feminine Force Field. We haven't seen you for a couple of weeks. We've been busy. So lovely to have you here again. And we're delighted to have an announcement of an exciting, we're very excited here in the background because Lisa has a new course available. And I was talking about on my Facebook page and the Rainbow Warrior Women last night, telling people that she's going to be on this morning on the Feminine Force Field, explaining about what the course is, because it's something that's really going to help a lot of mums upskill for the new year. I know in Ireland we're already into the new year with the teens starting into secondary school, as we call it in Ireland here, and it's high school in America and in Australia. But Lisa has put together a program, and she's starting it on the 15th of November. So we really love to get you involved and to sign up for that. And Lisa, would you like to tell people about it, please?
Oh, I would love to tell people about it. So I've been rattling my little brain about how I can support mums to support their daughters move into high school because it's such a big transition. And when I speak to mums, mums say to me things like, I just don't know what to do. Like, I'm absolutely beside myself thinking about cyberbullying and vaping and, social media. Like, what do I do about those things? And it can leave mums feeling very powerless. What I think is the best opportunity right now is that you have a very small window in which you can create um, a cohesive relationship with your daughter and start to teach her some of the skills that she could really use going into high school. Like, what I see is that kids, and this is actually probably very much like us as adults as well, is we keep trying to make our lives happier. We have things that we don't like in our lives that make us feel uncomfortable or sad. And so we keep trying and trying and trying to make our life happier. And what happens over time, if we don't have something else intercede, if we don't have something intervene and give us a greater awareness and expanded awareness, we actually become a little bit despondent in our lives. We start to give up. And what happens with teenagers, and probably a lot of women I know, and it certainly happened with me, is you end up compromising your own values so that you can just fit in, so that you can be part of things. You compromise all the things that are important to you. And that actually doesn't have to happen. When I learnt the emotional tools and the skills that I know now about understanding my own emotional world, compromising wasn't necessary because I had other things that I could do to deal with the way I felt and the relationships I was in, and I could prevent certain situations from happening. And I think this is really critical. We have a lot of information out there, and it's not about, I don't think it's about learning more information. Like, there's just so much information. It's actually about what can we do to prevent? What sort of things can we do to prevent those challenges happening? And what do we do with what gets in our way? Because sometimes we know what we should do. Like, our girls know what they should do, but why aren't they doing it? So what is it that's in their way? What is it that block? So what I teach is, how do we get around those things, those blocks that stop us from doing what we know we should do? And I also teach a lot of preventative tools and skills, because I know that the more I understand my emotions, the more I cease putting myself in a position to be hurt. I just don't walk into certain situations. I actually listen to my gut and I make different choices. I arm myself with certain words, like words I use that cannot be, they're not confrontational, so people can hear them. So I can actually get more of what I want as well. So, like, I think they're basic educational tools that we should have all learned, like, as kids, but sadly we didn't. So if a mum starts to upskill herself, then she can be the, and I like to say, the wise guide, a little bit like, Yoda and Luke on Star Wars, Carolyn.
Yeah,
Like
I'm always about
Yoda was,
Yoda.
and I'm sure there must be like a female heroine somewhere. I just haven't clocked one yet. Like, maybe Katniss from Hunger Games. I don't know,
Yes,
but
Lauren loves her actually. Yeah, she's a big old
yeah.
fan for
So
her. Yeah.
just just to think of yourself as a mum, like, our roles as mums have to change when they're teenagers. We
Yeah.
can't keep
Yeah.
being this person that like does this for things for them, fixes them, tries to. I mean, like, we have to really step into this role of wise guide. So we
Mm.
want them to actually we need to know what to say and we need to know when to shut up, right? That's the hardest thing. I've really
Yes.
struggled with that. When not to say anything, right? Just to listen. We need
Yeah.
to know how to do that. But also as a wise guide, like you watch any movie, like the heroes want to be around the wise guide because they
Yeah.
have so much value for them. And just being in their presence makes them feel like they can actually succeed on their own journey. And this is what our daughters are about to do. They're embarking on their own hero's journey now. We've got to get out of the way. And unless we're prepared, we're not going to have the little bits of, equipment or advice or whatever it is that we've got for them ready when they need it. So
Mhm.
I think that this is just such a brilliant opportunity for mums to learn those tools so that they feel prepared, because when you feel prepared, you don't feel anxious. And also for a mum to come back into her state of empowerment. So she's creating this really beautiful, cohesive relationship with her daughter, which as her daughter keeps going through puberty, she's really going to need that relationship, because without that trust, it's very hard to keep the communication going between you and not feel shut out. It's a
Yeah,
lot of information, isn't it?
I love that, Lisa Doyle. What picked out for me was the wise guide idea that, kind of, I suppose actually I had a breakdown in the car yesterday when I was going down to Wexford, and I ended up getting a lift back from a tow truck to Dublin. It's like, they had an idea that I wanted to do all these things, and then I ended up in the tow truck back to Dublin, and I ended up talking about this, about his 13-year-old daughter who's just started secondary school. And it was the same conversation and the same
Mm.
thing every time I speak to people. It's the same thing. It's just it's that shift from
Yeah.
the child stage into the teen stage, and how do we parent that, and also for men as well, it's a real transition for
Mm.
what's going on between the mum and the daughter. Like, they're looking on from his point of view. He was like, "What's happening here?" And he's not sure how to, because there's a little bit of friction going on. And I was saying to myself, "Wow, it's amazing how it's the same in every household, isn't it?" You know what I mean? We live
Mm.
these lives.
Mm.
We think we're all separate, but everybody goes through the same transitions, no matter what part of the world we live in. We're all going through the
Yep.
same. The difficult point is always, as I always say, I'm always harping on about the transitions, when things are changing, when something's growing, and how do we let that grow? Because so it's about upskilling the mother in understanding that, I suppose, as well, so that
That's
she
right.
knows, like, how to be that, like, that she has all the wisdom within her, that
Mm.
she actually has that wisdom, and maybe to
That's
remind her of
right.
that again, and let her
That's right.
start to kind of let I always say, like, the child, the daughter blossom, because they're here to do a certain thing. They're here, which is really exciting. Like, they're here to fulfill, their particular destiny. And, like, for the mum just to be there to allow that, like, flowering to happen,
Mm.
to create that warm, beautiful space. But, like, what are the kind of actions? Because you're changing behavior again. So it's difficult, like, isn't it, as a mum,
Yeah.
you've been
Yeah.
parenting for like 10, 12, 13 years in a certain way. And then all of a sudden those tools don't work anymore. You need a new set
Yep.
of tools because there's a new job at hand. It's like you have to
Mm.
upskill in your skills, like in your knowledge first of all, and then the knowledge to be put into practice, so your actions in the moment are different, and your reaction, so it's not
That's
reacting but
right.
responding, makes a
Yeah.
huge difference. So you're actually doing less, really, but it's just being more conscious, isn't it? Yeah.
I think for me, it's like I'm doing more work on myself in a way.
Yeah.
Like I'm
Yeah.
I'm I'm always monitoring my response to the situation, and I'm always looking for the growth and the opportunity to connect more and to develop her capacity to communicate and develop my capacity to communicate with her. So I guess the focus is different. Like, it's not as it's physical. When they were younger, we were even managing their behavior more physically as well. Like, it
Mhm.
is really different. And I think we also have a lot more to be dealing with in 2022 than what mothers ever had. And I think maybe I'm just going to say this out loud, 20, 30 years ago, maybe mums could sort of wing it, because there wasn't quite as much stuff that was around that was influencing our girls. There wasn't as much, I don't know if I could say enough, as much danger, but it was almost like there just wasn't the influences on girls
Mm.
that there are today, and I think all of that, it can escalate a mum's fears and worries. And we really need to be able to step out of that and come back into a really centered place, because that just creates more anxiety in her even,
Yeah,
and we
absolutely,
want to
Lisa.
build their confidence.
Yeah,
Mm.
because I just kind of that you just brought me right back into a meeting in school when Lauren was starting first, and thanks, Adam. Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
thanks, Adam.
doing less but gaining more and bringing in more energy, which brings more opportunities, and we should be grateful for this. Yeah,
Mm.
absolutely. Yeah, and it's great to see the dad's inputs as well, because I know like nowadays dads are so involved in parenting, and so interested in parenting as well. So it's like, it's that's a shift as well, Lisa, isn't it? Like
It
how
is.
the
Mm.
mom navigates that, the father's input into what, into the parenting of the teen, and that can cause kind of clashing as well. And that's why when I was saying about there was a talk in Orange School when she started first, and I remember that like it was all the parents packed into a room, and it was all to talk about cyberbullying, and I remember thinking, oh my god, there was all these kind of attitudes and fear, with all the parents not sure. We have this information, we're not sure how to do it. Some people were very strict, some people were kind of just checking out and not putting
Mm.
any structures in place, not having really, I suppose, this world that we're not as I suppose we're not clued into it as much as our teens. So,
Mm.
trying to
Mm.
educate ourselves of what are these platforms, what are these apps, and what's the influence that, like you said, there's so many different influences on them coming in the home. You can't really, like, I suppose, just say, oh, you're not going out, or you're grounded because they have their phones and X, Y and Z. So it's all about, to me, it's all about the relationship and the
Yeah.
trust and the love and connection that really is foundational for their
Oh,
lives
absolutely.
going forward.
Yeah. I think if you can get that, if you can really focus on that, I've learned anyway that stuff happens, like stuff that you would think that you might be able to avoid, you can't avoid. Like stuff happens. That's just them being teenagers in this day and age. However, the relationship that you have with them is just of paramount importance. And the earlier that you can start learning those emotional skills to actually be able to stay in your own empowered state so that you're not reactive, the sooner you do that, the better, because you're creating this cohesive and very trusting um, relationship back and forth between you. And what I notice is you don't, like, conflict is not necessary.
Mm,
And it isn't necessary when you develop those relationships. It doesn't mean you don't have struggles between you, but you don't have to have conflict where you're yelling at each other and where there's
mm,
disrespect. It's a matter of, like now I find, because my relationship with my daughter is so good, that I can ask her to do a chore and she'll say, "Yeah, mum, no problem." Like
mm,
those things happen not because I'm any amazing mum, but because I just have really worked on my relationship with her. And
mm,
for her, it's a respect thing. It's like,
mm,
well, I really love my mum. I'm going to do what
mhm,
she asked me to do. And it's not like it's a real, we both help each other. So it's coming into a relationship like that can make your life so much easier, because I know what it was like when I had my other children, like two boys and a girl, and they were Aria's age. I wasn't parenting like this. And honestly, I just felt like a broken record. Pick up your socks. Why can't you do the dishwasher? Stop watching the television. It's just
yeah,
like, oh, it's just stop it. Just stop it.
yeah. But your
We
life
don't like
becomes,
nagging,
yeah,
and they
like
don't like being
your
nagged.
life becomes oh, all about that. You know what I mean? When you're on
Yeah,
that kind of wheel, isn't it? It's a kind of it's not fun. Your life becomes
it's
a
no
little
fun.
joyless. Where it's really about kind of, because you feel you have to do that, because actually you haven't
Yeah,
been modeled any other way of doing it. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
it's you feel that's the way to parent. You don't think there's any other way, and then obviously that's going to feed into your own happiness. So I think
Mm.
for me, I think when I changed I say, like that 10 years ago, I flipped it around and started to kind of consciously parent as well, and it meant like life was so much more. you know, more space for myself, more time to explore the things I wanted to explore, and ended up writing books and things like that. And then that was modeled to the kids today. And now, like, you can see how even with writing, they're really interested in writing, really interesting. That it's like you opening the door of possibility for them, you know. So you're showing them just a different way to be. You don't have to follow the model of what everybody else does. You can create your own life, you know, consciously, you know. So it's really powerful, actually, you know, choice to make. And I just think it's an exciting opportunity to redesign your life that from this point forward. If anyone's starting with their child, not just, it's not really even just the blossoming of the teen, it's a blossoming of the mom. I always think, you know,
Yes.
into a new level of kind of freedom and creative expression, you know, that she gets a chance to be herself as in life, you know, also. So, you know, it's embracing the challenge, you know, rather than seeing it as something that's, you know, oh, you know, yeah. So tooling up and embracing the challenge, always kind of walking into it in a warm way, I think is definitely the attitude I'd have towards it, you know. And I think it's great, Lisa, that you're you know, offering this. And it's starting on the 15th of November.
Yes, so I've been thinking to myself, well, what, like, mums have so much to do. Like, I understand that we really feel already like there's just so many things we're taking care of and looking after and balls to juggle. So I thought one of the best ways that I could support mums was to offer just 1 hour a week and make it 1 hour a week, really tight, really focused training, and then no homework, but you just go and practice whatever it is that you've learned. You just practice it in your everyday life. So you're not adding anything to your time.
Hmm.
At the end of it, I will have an optional, you can stay on and have an optional question and answer and have some support, ask some questions, but totally unnecessary. So just going to
Hmm.
do that for 5 weeks, 1 hour a week. And then there's another optional check in as well at the end of January. So if you'd like to, in Australia, kids go back to school in February,
Hmm.
but that's probably about 6 weeks after. So another check in that's, you know, just optional if you want to turn up. How are you going? What have any struggles, any questions you've got, and just do a refresh, which I think is really helpful about 6 weeks after any training. So that's what it was about. We're going to record all the sessions, and there'll also be some course notes as well. So, yeah, my intention is to make it high impact, really effective, and just practical. Very, very practical.
That's amazing, Lisa. It's fabulous. And also, like, for anyone in Ireland or in the UK, that it's still, or in the US, like, it's still great to kind of, I suppose we are in November, so we started our for our first years in secondary school started in September. So we're only a couple of months into it, and they're only kind of, you know, starting into their first kind of getting used to exams, and we're hearing, you know, I suppose feedback, you know, different subjects that they're on, and sometimes that's very, you know, much big struggle for, you know, the teens, you know, the preteens, whatever. Kind of, I suppose they're being challenged in a way that they haven't been challenged before, and you know, the mums are kind of trying to hold a space for them. And this is a great time now when I suppose they're in it, they're actually in the unfolding issues at this time,
Absolutely.
you know, for them to get involved in this kind of course as well, like, because, you know, they're realizing the challenges now, you know.
Yes. Yeah.
Maybe in Australia they have a bit more time to upskill before the challenges come on board, but like in Ireland and in the UK, people that I'm talking to as well, you know, you can see the same pattern happens all the time, you know. And same I'm in with first years in college, same thing, you know, on a different
Yeah.
level, but it's always the same thing, even for adults like ourselves. Always, you know, when transition time, it's always like, you know, you have to nearly upskill yourself. And you know that when you're in the
Yeah.
midst of the challenge, you know, you realize, wow, like you said, I can do with some extra support. And I just think even the idea, and put it into people's minds, that, you know, it's okay, like everybody needs extra support in these times, you know. And that's what community was always. But I grew up in a village, and it was all the different intergenerational, um you know, community mixing. So there was a natural support system there all the time for the next generation when you're moving into, you know. So but now
Mm.
in modern days, that's kind of disconnected as much. But now we have online platforms and, you know, courses like this that you can link in and really get kind of more expert guides, wise guides like yourself, Lisa, to guide, create that, idea in the mums as being the wise guide for their daughters. I love that. I love that
Yeah,
idea. It's
yeah,
just
I think,
intergenerational intelligence, coming down, and
yeah,
experience.
absolutely. It
Yeah.
is experience, and there's a way that we can impart that without them getting defensive or shutting us out and not hearing it. So, and that's all emotional skill, right? They're just skills that we can learn. It's nothing,
Yeah.
way out about it. They're just skills we can learn. So,
Mm.
yeah, highly, anytime, honestly, anytime that you've got kids, I think is a great time to learn
Yeah.
some of the
Yeah.
little side.
Yeah.
Got a
Absolutely.
kid, you should be learning them. Make your life easier because it does. Like your own life is easier.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, if you'd like to sign up for the course, you can have a look in where these videos are posted. I will put the link underneath, or you can go to my Facebook page, which is The Emotions Whisperer. Or if you're one of my friends, that's Lisa Jane. I am Lisa Jane, LasaJayne. And I think,
Yeah.
Caroline, you've posted it a few times you've got it on
Yeah.
some of your feeds as well.
And I'm
Yep.
going to post it again today, and I'm going to post it in the Rainbow Warrior Women's group as well. Yeah, so people, if they want to get involved in it, please do. Yeah, the links will be below here, and then there'll be another post after this as well. Yeah, so that's
Yep.
amazing, Lisa, and I wish you the very best of luck with it. And I really think everybody should get signed up, get upskilled, and for a happier life, definitely.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
right. And smooth the transition for our
yes,
girls.
yes,
They'll feel more
everyone,
empowered too.
and the
Yeah,
dads.
super. And the dads.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so wonderful. Well, thank you, Caroline. Thank
Okay.
you, everyone, for watching us. It's been a lovely conversation once again.
Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you back here next week. Take care. Have a good week.
Thanks, everyone. Have
Bye.
a good week.
Thanks for watching.